Hello everybody, my name is Dusk, and welcome to another episode of ShokzSC Video Guides. In this guide we're going to go over the basics of how to use ghosts in real game scenarios, and just show you how to effectively use their abilities, maximize their effectiveness against Protoss, Zerg. Against Protoss, ghosts are basically used every game. Against Zerg, they're used late game. And against Terran, they're used in specific scenarios, specifically in bio versus mech scenarios. And so the Ghost is one of the most expensive units in the game. It costs 200 minnows, 100 gas. Its damage per second is extremely poor for its cost, but the place where the Ghosts are really good is in its ability. So it's got two abilities. One is EMP and one is Snipe. EMP removes 100 Protoss shields and 100 energy, so basically it's an anti-Protoss unit and an anti-caster unit, which makes its effectiveness against High Templars extremely potent. It also has a second ability called Snipe, and that ability does 45 damage, ignores armor at I believe 11 or 12 range to any biological unit, and so that's where the late game anti-Zerg comes in. And so in this first clip we're going to take a look at Terran versus Protoss mid game push. And so you normally would want to push with two ghosts, and the Protoss would normally have more sentries, but in this unit tester game all units start with max energy, and so we just reduce the ghost count and sentry count and let the corresponding player use as much force fields or EMPs as they want. And so when you're engaging the Protoss army, you want to hold down E and click twice, and what that does is put off two very fast EMPs. And so the main targets of your EMPs is sentries and immortals if possible. And so after you EMP them, if they did have any force fields, you want to move the units in front of your force fields to the back, and then you want to move your units behind your force fields to damage as many units as possible. So if their zealots are on one side, you want to move your units to that side and hit the zealots behind the force fields, and if you have Marine and Marauders in front of the force fields, you want to be cutting the zealots as well. And so after the force fields are gone, or if you're in range of the Immortal, make sure to target down the Immortal first, as that does the most DPS, and then go for the Stalkers after that, and Sentries last, if you can. And so here's another clip of the exact same engagement, just showing you how to prioritize your force fields. So you want to go for the biggest clump of units, and hopefully that clump will include the most amount of Sentries and Immortals. I didn't get all the Sentries in this one, but I did I was able to kite my Marines and Marauders down the force fields, and that allowed me to get a lot better positioning. The Protoss player didn't have enough time to get down better force fields, and that basically allowed me to win the battle. Alright, so in the next scenario, it's going to be a late game Protoss vs Terran. We have maxed out Marines and Marauders and a high number of Ghosts. Now the most important thing against this Protoss ball is that if you miss your EMPs, you're probably going to lose. But if you hit your EMPs, you're probably going to win. And so it really comes down to if the Terran player makes a mistake or not, which is interesting. So it doesn't really matter if all of your ghosts die in the beginning, as long as you EMP everything. So I would generally like to take the majority of my ghosts and leave one or two behind, and just go in and try to EMP as much as possible. The one or two in behind are meant to EMP any Templar that they choose to leave behind or are in Warp Prisms. And so let's take a look at how you would do this. You just want to take the majority of your ghosts and just spam EMP in the middle of their army. I kind of spammed it all in the same place, but you get the idea. And now the Protoss ball is really, really weakened. Their High Templar don't have any energy. They can blink and do all the fancy Protoss shenanigans that they want, but it really doesn't matter. The bio ball is too strong at this point, and I would convincingly win the battle. Now, if the Protoss player were better spread, this would be a different question. My EMPs would also be better spread, and so it just comes down to targeting the important units. And the important units are either a massive clump of Stalkers, a clump of Immortals, Sentries, or High Templar, and getting the Colossus. So those are the few important things. The Colossus, because although they won't be hit by the Bio Ball, the Vikings will take care of them. High Templar and Sentry because they can cast Guardian Shield, Force Field, and Storm, which are extremely, extremely strong against the Bio Ball. And Immortals because they just do a lot of damage to begin with. And so make sure to put your ghosts on a separate hotkey, just so you can have access to them quickly. as well as being able to stim your bio ball. I'm preemptively spreading against this Protoss ball, and I'm just getting ready to spam EMP. There's one EMP off, trying to get the High Templar right now, trying to get the rest of the Protoss ball, and then I stim in. I only stim in a few groups of units, and I try to kite with my low ground. Generally, what you want to do is not control your entire army at once, because when you do, it causes them to automatically clump up, which makes the effectiveness of High Templar and Colossus a lot more potent. And so you see, once again, because I EMP'd all the High Templar, I win convincingly. And so if you can't manage to EMP all the Templar, you want to basically take the part of your army that's being stormed, run it out. Or if it's like at the end of the storm, you want to take half of it and run it out. And that just reduces damage on everything. And so when fighting a Protoss ball, it's especially important to kite with a group of your units and not all of your units at the same time, because when you kite with a group of your units, the part that you have is going to be able to, they're still going to be able to put out damage, but not as effective as the group that isn't moving, and that allows you to just increase your damage output a little bit more. Alright guys, in this scenario, we're going to go against a meching Terran player. Now meching Terrans are going to have a few Vikings, a lot of Blue Flame Hellions, and primarily siege tanks to do the damage. The Vikings are to prevent medevac drops, the Blue Flame Hellions are just a mineral sink. So the siege tanks are there just to do the damage to the Marauders. And so what you want to do in Ghost in this scenario is you want to nuke close to their tanks so that it's out of tank range, but you want it to be close enough where it's going to do a little bit of splash damage to the tanks. And so that's what you see I'm doing. I'm trying to slow push with my nukes, and so you want to have your Marine Marauder ball preemptively spread so that when you do decide to push in, they're not all clumped up. I'm doing a second nuke, and as you can see, it's doing just a little bits of damage to the siege tanks at a time. It looks like he did spread, so I'm simming in all my Marines and Marauders. And this is the exact same thing you want to do with the Protoss when you're fighting the Protoss ball. You want to take little bits of your army, move it up, and take little bits of army, move it up. Now, I saw that I had already won this battle, so I stopped doing it, but I think I do it a lot better in the next engagement. And so you see that even if I didn't kill all the tanks, I would still be ahead just because of how expensive tanks are to replace and how cheap Marine and Marauder are. And so we see this scenario again. I do the exact same thing, ghost nuking. He's going to try to harass with my his Vikings. A Bio-Terran generally wouldn't have the Viking count just because he needs the he needs the medevacs instead. And so he stims half his tanks. I have to cancel the nuke, that's very important. Take a small group of your Marauders, move it up so that take a little bit more damage than the rest, and then you just plow through the tank line. It really just comes down to how good your spread is and how many tanks you decide to unsiege because of your nuke. And so figuring that out basically takes a lot of experience, and then so that really just comes with playing the game, or it also depends heavily on your upgrades. And so in this last scenario, I'm going to show you guys how to use Ghosts against Broodlords. Now, the problem with this was that recording-wise, it made my computer lag a little bit, which made the method that I used not work very well. But I guarantee you guys it'll work for you as long as your computer isn't lagging that much. And the method is holding down a button, waiting about a second, and then spam clicking that button. And so if you open up Notepad, and let's say you hold down the button R, it's going to pause for a little bit, and then it's going to spam R. And so that concept is basically used in spamming any abilities and even EMPs in the previous scenario. You want to hold down R, which is snipe, and against Broodlords, you hold down R, wait about a half a second to a second, and then you can spam click all you want, and it's not going to deselect any of your ghosts when you're spam clicking. Now, when I was recording, it did deselect for some reason. And so this is what the battle would look like. You take all your ghosts. I couldn't use the rest of units just because of how laggy it was. And so you take the rest of your ghosts, and then you hold down R, and you start clicking, and it just demolishes Broodlords. Absolutely destroys Broodlords. I couldn't spam click as fast just because of the recording speed, and so you see my cursor not actually constantly clicking. And I'll show you guys a replay of this where I could spam click, and the difference is pretty noticeable. And as you can see, ghosts are pretty good against Brood Lords. And now this final clip was done in a different unit tester. It just showed me a replay of doing this, and when I did in a replay, I didn't have to record at the same time, and so it allowed me to really spam click the snipe button. And as you can see, it just shoots it out extremely, extremely fast. Alright, so that's the Ghost Guide, you guys. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, I will see you guys later.